Yo no voy a ir. Si tú quieres, tú vas, pero yo no voy. No quiero conocer a tu amigo, no me interesa conocer a tu amigo.
Danielle thinks that her 1-year anniversary celebration is the perfect time to convince her husband that they should hang out with her ex. How romantic. Yohan is obviously incredibly uncomfortable, and Danielle, as usual, doesn't really seem to give a f***.
Termina esta relación, tú tienes otra mujer, ¿qué es las consecuencias?
Las consecuencias no van a ser buenas. ¿Está clara?
But is she ready to face the consequences for her actions? Is Danielle willing to risk ending her marriage? All because she's too proud to admit that she's wrong, too selfish to see that she's hurting her husband? Well, I wouldn't put it past her. We join them in this episode, picking up exactly where we left off. They're in the middle of their conversation about Danielle wanting to meet up with her ex, and Danielle is proving, once again, that she's impossible to have a normal conversation with.
So yo no puedo tener amigos en mi vida.
Tú puedes tener amigos, pero algo muy diferente, un amigo que tú tuviste una relación.
Yep, seems pretty clear to me. Friends? Yes. Friends that are guys? Yeah, totally fine. Friends that are exes? No. It couldn't be more clear. And it's a completely normal thing for Yohan to be asking of his wife. Generally speaking, I think most of us can agree that we don't just casually hang out with our exes. Yohan is speaking extra slow just to make sure that Danielle understands him. But she's looking at him like he's the idiot. So he tries another tactic.
Ok, yo tengo una amiga, tuve relaciones. ¿Tú quieres que yo salga con ella?
Es una conversación.
This is a conversation, Danielle. You're having one right now. You brought an idea to the table, you discussed why you wanted to hang out with your ex, Yohan expressed why this would make him feel uncomfortable, and you both agreed to disagree. That's how a conversation works. But this is what makes Danielle impossible. She thinks she's better than she is. Like, I genuinely believe that Danielle thinks she'd be okay with this hypothetical situation. She thinks she's this super chilled out, cool, go with the flow kind of girl. But in reality, she's demanding, high strung, and rude, with a complete lack of self-awareness. And I guarantee that if Yohan ever actually wanted to go and hang out with an ex, there's no way that she'd be okay with it.
No entiendes, tú tienes una cultura allá, la otra cultura aquí. Mira.
To be honest, I don't even think that this is that much of a culture thing. Danielle's over there pretending like it's totally normal in America to just casually hang out with your ex. But that's just not true. Lots of people would feel exactly the same way as Yohan feels about this situation. But Danielle's manipulating him into thinking otherwise. She's looking at him like he should be embarrassed by the way that he's acting, in the condescending way only she can.
Yo no voy a ir. Si tú quieres, tú vas, pero yo no voy. No quiero conocer a tu amigo, no me interesa conocer a tu amigo, nada.
And while Danielle's actions seem to be having the desired impact on Yohan, his stance seems to be softening. His attendance isn't up for discussion. It's a hard no, which raises the question, why is Danielle pushing it so much? Why do I get the impression this is her trying to parade Yohan in front of her ex, showing him off like a new toy, to the extent where if he refuses to come, the meetup is almost pointless for her.
He is unwilling to even sit down and have a conversation with my ex. I feel like that is really childish, and it's not the kind of relationship I want to have.
You know what, Danielle? Then just leave. Just leave. You say you love him, but you want to change absolutely everything about him. From his job, to his religion, to his values. You call him childish, but what I think is childish is marrying someone and then expecting them to be this perfect little Ken doll that just follows you around and nods their head at everything you say.
A ella no le importa y no tiene ningún tipo de consideración acerca de lo que yo quiero. Y eso yo lo veo muy injusto porque ella va a hacer lo que le dé su gana.
But it seems like Yohan is sick of being Danielle's plaything. plaything too. He's ready to stand up for himself, especially when it comes to this issue. He tells Danielle that she can go and meet up with her ex if she wants to, but if she does, she better be ready for the consequences. And if Danielle decides to go and meet up with her ex now, knowing how upset it will make Yohan, well, make no mistake, she's putting her ex in front of her husband. And in doing so, this will affect her marriage.
No puedo tener una conversación cuando tú estás mucho enojado.
No estoy enojado. Estoy
Mi
bien.
amor, tú estás loco.
No estoy enojado. Estoy bien.
This is textbook gaslighting from Danielle. Yohan has been calm and composed this entire conversation. All he's doing is expressing how he feels. Yet here's Danielle trying to make out like he's overreacting and he's really mad. She's calling him crazy when he's been absolutely rational. It's manipulation. She's trying to manipulate him into doubting himself, doubting his feelings, in order to get her own way.
Quiero ir porque no es una solución ahora.
Ok.
Yo puedo manejar.
Yo puedo manejar.
Mi amor, no.
They're supposed to be out celebrating their 1-year anniversary, but because Yohan doesn't want to see her ex-boyfriend, Danielle decides to cut the date short. It's almost like she only came out for beers just to have this one conversation. If Yohan wasn't feeling insecure and disrespected before, he certainly is now. Which leads to their next argument, a familiar argument. Which of them is going to drive?
Yohan's had a few beers and I'm not letting him drink and drive. There's no way he's driving out of this parking lot. So I'm gonna sit on him until he hands me these keys.
Now, Danielle is absolutely right to stop Yohan from drinking and driving. She's done the right thing. But with his inhibitions down, Yohan is now expressing just how hurt he is by Danielle's desire to meet up with her ex. And she's just ignoring him.
No estoy contento contigo. Tu amigo más importante.
Give me your keys. I will sit here and play with you.
Mis amigos.
He's literally saying to her he feels less important to her than her friends. And all she can say is, give me your keys. Where's her compassion?
Give me the keys and I will. I'll get out as soon as you give me the keys.
It's so childish, it's so petty. The way she's sitting on him, refusing to get up, is a power play. It didn't work verbally, so now she's going to have to physically try to assert her dominance. This is about so much more than who's going to drive. It's more who's going to have the upper hand in the relationship. Danielle wants the keys and she wants them immediately, and Yohan can't be bothered with this argument. He gives up and hands her the keys, and that feels so symbolic about where their relationship is headed.
If this thing is going to piss Yohan off this much, he is going to be miserable for the majority of our relationship. I have a lot of people in my life that Yohan's not going to be fond of, clearly.
Instead of being able to reflect on her own actions, maybe even coming up with solutions or compromises to ensure it doesn't happen again in the future, Danielle, instead, is unmoving on her stance. She blames Yohan entirely. She just shrugs her shoulders at the idea of him being miserable. Why? Because she doesn't care. So, does the drive home signal the end of this conversation, at least for today? No, because we all know Danielle does some of her best arguing inside the car.
Termina esta relación, tú tienes otra mujer, ¿qué es las consecuencias?
Las consecuencias no van a ser buenas. ¿Está clara?
Danielle was happy to ignore Yohan earlier when he was vulnerably expressing how unimportant he felt in this relationship. Now, however, she's boldly asking what exactly will be the consequences if she decides to go and meet her ex. Maybe she doesn't see it as a real threat, or maybe she's just weighing up the pros and cons, whether it's actually worth it. If all that's going to happen is he's going to be angry with me, that's okay, I can deal with that. But whatever the truth, it really feels like Danielle is taunting Yohan. Go ahead, make your move. I'm still gonna do whatever I want to do.
So I won't know the consequences until I do it. It's a surprise. I have to live my whole life as a surprise. Yeah, no, toda mi vida es una sorpresa.
I doubt Yohan even knows what he'll do if she decides to go. But that's not the point. The point is, if she knows it's going to cause Yohan to be upset, why is she putting her ex ahead of her husband? It's clear Danielle is right about one thing. Yohan is going to be miserable for the majority of this relationship.